show is a paid program.
Thank you so much, family. I am telling you, I'm excited today. We have the best of the best. Texas State Representative Senfronia Thompson, District 141. That represents Northeast Houston and Humboldt. We are talking about Black History Month, and this is the end of the month. But we know we do Black History 24/7, 365 days a year. This lady is the longest serving woman and African American in Texas history for Texas. Hey lady, how you doing?
Fine. Thank you. And thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. I'm so excited today. I wanted to let everybody know she is part of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. The ladies have told me, Cam, you got to go buy you a shirt and go buy you a green tie just to represent. So I did that. Sorority said hello.
Thank you.
District 141. Lady, how did we get started into getting into politics? How did this come about? All righty. Okay, so it looks like we'll pick back up there. So let's talk a little bit about Texas State Representative Senfronia. How did we get started, lady?
Well, I ran for office in 1972 at the advent of single-member districts in Texas for the first time. Mm-hmm. And, later it went on to single-member districts and school districts and things of that nature, and city councils and so forth and so on. And it gave minorities an opportunity to be able to represent their districts and the interests of their districts, things that were important to those minorities' community. And that's how I got started. I ran during what was considered then the Year of the Woman. Mm-hmm. Barbara Jordan was running for the United States Congress to be the first African American in the South and female to win and to be elected since Reconstruction. Sissy Farrenthal from Corpus Christi ran as governor and almost won during that particular time. And there were women running for school boards and other things. And it wasn't a lot of women running, but Barbara Jordan and women like her, and her more importantly, broke through the glass ceiling and giving women the courage that they could run for office other than just working campaigns, electing men.
Absolutely. I love that. In looking at that along the way, we found a little video. Let's show that video first, and let's look at you in action a little bit.
Hearing about how fearless I am, I'm supposed to be. It reminded me when I was going to college, my husband educated me. I had 2 children when I went to college. And he told me how proud he was. He was a little older than I, and he said, I want to make sure that you get an education so if something happens to me, you'll be able to take care of yourself and the children. You won't have to take anything off anybody. During that course, a period of time, we started the sit-arm strike. He told me, he said, now, don't go down there with that sit-arm strike. And every time I got an opportunity, I would go down on the corner of Alameda and Southmore. There was a drugstore called Madden's Drugstore, which is now Walgreens. And I would sit because they wouldn't serve us because we were black. We were going to integrate. Every day I went home, I got interrogated. And here you go down there? No. One day we were sitting there, and a white man came in with a double-barrel shotgun. He said, I'm going to kill every nigger sitting on these stools. We sat there. After a while, things kind of died down, and he left. And people just rushed into the drugstore, and they were just bragging on us. Oh, how proud they were. Like, y'all, oh, you're just so fearless. I told them, man, I said, we couldn't move. We was frozen in fear. We couldn't move if we wanted to. I got home that afternoon. I interrogated. My husband said, did you go down there and mess with those white folks? I said, no. Televisions came on. And I lost it. But I've had an opportunity to work in this community, and with the support and the help and the prayers and the problems that we've been able to work together, because it hasn't been a one-person show. It has been the efforts of the community and the help that you have been giving me that has afforded me an opportunity to be able to solve some of the problems that we have in the community. And when Harvey came, it was just such a huge, huge problem. I remember so many people in this area who did so much to help people, to help them survive. I called Rhonda Skilling-Jones and I said, Rhonda, I have some people that's trapped over in Verdant Forest and the water is too high and vehicles cannot get there. And she says, I'll get a helicopter in there in a minute. Helicopter came over, thank you, Rhonda. Came over and rescued the people. Lady said, I can't leave my dog. We're gonna rescue the dog too. I can't tell you, I called our constable, Sherman Eagleton. He came out, I've never seen a truck so big in all my life. He rescued people in the truck. And then I had an opportunity to talk to a politician. He told me, he said, I want you to know that for 5 days, I was out rescuing people in Hurricane Harbor. I said everybody was rescuing somebody. Even the white supremacists was over and rescuing black folks. And black folks we were all rescued. Yeah. And the point is that God gave a gift. And out of that gift, he has given a lot of different gifts to different people so that we would be able to be in a position to help each other. And I am so grateful and so blessed that this community has allowed me to be able to be a part of an opportunity of that greater scheme of God by giving me.
Thank you so much for your gift. We wanted to let people know that where you started a little bit and how you started along the way. But since 1972, you've been doing this and running the same race, lady.
Well, you know, one of the good things about that era that you showed, it was a black agenda that was just pieced together across the nation, and we were all on the same page.
Yes,
fighting for the same things, and with that kind of strength behind us, we were the impetus behind the Urban League, the NAACP, Martin Luther King being able to get the Voting Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act, and the Civil Rights Act passed. It was because of the people sticking together and fighting for those common causes. Nobody trying to be a hero within themselves, but everybody pushing against that wheel to get it out of the ditch. And we were able to do it. And that shows you what we can do when we are solid behind issues that are going to help all of us, the masses, and not just an individual.
Absolutely. From that day on, I've seen that you have authored so many bills, and we can just mention a few of them along the way, as you're authoring one right now, which is George Floyd, and we'll talk about that. One of the bills was James Byrd Jr. hate crimes. Why that bill?
Rodney Ellis, who is now our Harris County Commissioner, had fought for to bring about hate crime legislation, and he had gotten some passed, and he tried to improve upon that legislation by adding other parts to it, and he could never get anywhere in the House. And so one day I was just sitting contemplating, and I just told the Lord, I said, I want to do something important this session. Give me a project, God. And for some reason, I walked over and told him, I'm going to carry this hate crime bill in the House. I was just stunned the way God moved in that bill. There were people who came from all across the country, prayer groups, prayer circles, ministers, people from all walks of life, and businesses got on board. And they said this is wrong. Now, this is the era during the time that Matthew Shepard had been killed, the gay man who was killed and hung on the fence tragically as a young gay person. And the world was in just an upheaval. And I was running out of money in my budget. And at that particular time, Niece Parker was the comptroller, so she came up. She said, "I don't know what I could do for you." And I said, "Niece, I am broken. My account, I don't even have any money to even go to the Xerox machine up here in the Capitol." And so she said to me, "When I go home, I'll send you $1,000." And she did. She sent me the money, and we got support going. We got the bill passed in the House for the first time. And what was causing it to have a problem was they didn't want to cover the LGBT community.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I kept those out of the bill, they would not cover it.
Right.
So what I did was, and I'm going to show you how the hand of God really works in things.
Right.
I didn't know how to get the support that I needed from the conservative and the Republicans. And there was a guy in the House with me. He was so far to the right, he couldn't turn right. And I'm serious when I tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I had been friendly, but we voted just opposite each other.
Right.
We literally canceled each other's vote outs as we vote on different issues,
Right.
social issues.
Uh-huh.
And so I walked up to him one Friday and I told him, "Are you going to be here this weekend? Because if you are, I'm going to be here too." I had no plans to stay in Austin that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Yeah, I'm going to be here." I said, "Can you and I sit down and talk about a definition for sexual orientation?" He said, "Okay, all right, I do that for you, Senfronia." I said, "Okay." So we each got our groups together, and we kept, not in the same room, we kept hammering out different definitions that we wanted, passing it across the aisle to each other. And then he could no and yes and no and some no, take this out. And finally, at the end of that weekend, that Sunday night, we were able to come up with a definition. So he walks over to me and he said, "Listen, I wouldn't do this for nobody but you." And I told him, I said, "Man, there's nobody but God that calls you to do it, because I didn't do it." I said, "Because I was ready to go upside your head." And so he said, "But what do you want me to do now?" And I told him, I asked him a question. I said, "Can you keep this definition to yourself? And if I get the bill on the floor, would you put this amendment on?" He says, "Okay." I said, "But how many votes are you going to be able to bring me?" He said, if I put this amendment on," he says, "I'm going to bring you 9 votes. I said, and I needed those 9 votes to pass the bill.
Right.
So finally, I get the bill set.
Mm-hmm.
We have the hearing. With the debate is going on the floor, back and forth, and forth. And there were Democrats as well as Republicans squirming in their seats because they didn't want to be called on the carpet after they have been telling these people that they support them at different times. Of have to really face up to it now.
Right.
And so this guy gets on the back microphone and he asks me a question. I have an amendment, and it's a definition of sexual orientation. Would you take my amendment? And I told him, "I don't know whether I'll take your amendment. Now bring it down here and let me look at it." So he comes down. Like, we have already pre-planned this,
Right.
He comes down to the microphone up front, and everybody on the floor knew that we didn't have an agreement on anything, and they just knew my side of the aisle knew that it was a no.
Right.
His side of the aisle was ready to vote for him, but they figured that I wasn't going to accept it.
Right.
So we stand there and just chit chat about something for a few minutes about any little thing.
Yeah.
And so finally, the speaker looking at me, and everybody's on pins and needles just waiting. What is it going to be? What is it going to be? And I walk to the microphone and says, "I'll accept the amendment." And that bill passed. Well, George Bush was planning on running for president, and he did not want that bill to be passed on his watch. So they killed it. They quietly kept it from going through the Senate. And then the next session, we went through the same process. The guy offered an amendment. I accepted. We passed the bill, and it's history today.
Gosh, just the act of going through that.
Yeah, but it shows you the power of God if you believe.
Right.
But it also, I felt so badly for the family having to continue to go through to hear that what happened to their son over and over and over again. You felt for the parents and the trauma,
Yes.
the trauma the family was going through. But through it all, God made it.
Absolutely. There's another big bill that you did that I love, the minimum wage law. You were author on that one. You were very adamant about increasing the wages of people as well as definitely women.
Well, when I did the minimum wage bill, and it's not been another one since that.
No.
I put an index in it,
Mm-hmm.
and the purpose of putting an index in that bill at that time is not to prevent from having to pass a new bill every session to raise it.
Right.
And that index says that if the federal minimum wage goes up, our state minimum wage would automatically goes up to whatever the federal was offering.
Right.
That made it easy. Now on the equal pay bill, was the interesting thing about that was there was a lady, a professor of Indian descent, working for Prairie View, and they hired her with the same credentials, same experience, and all those things. They was paying her cheaper than they was paying the males. And I was trying to give her a right to go to state court rather than have to go to federal court to file equal pay for women. And we passed the bill, got it passed, and Governor Perry vetoed it. So we've been trying to get it passed again, and it's been an uphill fight. And all it does is say is if a woman is doing the same job with the same experiences and the same responsibilities as a man, pay her the same salaries. Because when she goes to the grocery store, or when she goes to the department store, or she goes to buy an automobile, they don't give her a discount because she's a woman.
Right.
They charge her the same price that they do everyone else. So why not be fair to her in earnings if she qualifies just as the male did? And the interesting thing, I passed a bill that dealt with alimony, which is I like to come back on your show because it's kind of entertaining. The happenings of that particular bill, but it is something that provides women an opportunity when they've been in a marital situation and they get kicked to the curb after so many years with no opportunity to go into the workplace because they have no experience, they have no job training, and they have been out of the workplace for so long, and then no one is looking for them at that age to come into the workforce because the longevity may not be as long as they may need a person to be in there. So that is something that when we come back and talk about other women issues,
yes,
postpartum depression, which is some legislation that we have been trying to get passed, and I like to do something on that. But while I've done things that have helped women, I've also have done things that help men because I've been real adamant about making sure that women get child support. And in the process, sometimes women know where the daddy is. They won't get child support. And sometimes years later, the daddy decides to marry somebody, and then they want to go down and sack him up for 10 years of back child support and make it kind of difficult for him. So I passed some legislation that says if you know where he was living, you got a 4-year statute of limitation to go in there and file for child support. But if you didn't know where he was living, he was slipping and dodging and seeking and hiding, it's different. But if you've known, you don't get that 10-year window. You get a 4-year window, and if you miss that, sad on you. I mean, that means to go back for back pay.
You're very strong on, now we're talking about the George Floyd Act. That's relevant, that's now. Let's talk about that and what that entails.
Well, the George Floyd Act has been something that the Texas Legislative Black Caucus have been trying to pass bits and pieces of this bill since 2000. Since the year of 2000. And what has happened over the years, we've tried to pass legislation that deal with excessive force, and to institute within the arresting process or the detaining process, if there's a need for force, let's use de-escalation first. We're not trying to tell the officer how to run his job. But if there's an opportunity that he don't have to beat up on nobody, there's no violence and nothing, why don't you use some de-escalation method rather than escalating the situation and getting it to a dangerous or a deadly situation? So we've been trying to do that. That's a part of the George Floyd Act. And then there's a part called qualified immunity. You ever wonder sometimes when a person gets shot, maybe they're running from a policeman, didn't have a gun, they get shot and killed, and then all of a sudden when a lawsuit is filed against the police department in the city of Houston, the court says they don't find nothing wrong that the police officer did. And you said, what in the world is wrong with that court? Well, back in the 1871, they instituted what is called qualified immunity. And they instituted this, the courts did this, they made a rule within the court because African Americans had gotten free, and then the Ku Klux Klans were just giving them a fit. They were just preying upon them, putting a lot of them back in slavery and all, and they gave them a tool that they can go to court because if their rights were being violated by the Ku Klux Klans by preying upon them and trying to re-enslave them. And as the court began to use this rule over the years, it says, wait a minute, we need to do something about public servants, because if they're going to be able to exercise their duties and responsibility, they can't keep looking over their shoulders at lawsuits and every time you turn around, they do something, they're being sued. So we need to give them a break. And this was instituted to make sure that when I'm standing on the floor of the House and I'm raising hell about a particular thing, somebody sues me, I don't end up individually getting sued about it. And maybe the state of Texas doesn't have to pay out money for something I said on the floor of the House or the president. That's the reason why Trump was able to get away with so many things that he was, because of qualified immunity. Our police officers, when they have misconduct. But let me give you a little scenario that happened in 2018 here that comes into the James Byrd Act. In Munford, Texas, we have a facility that we use to treat severely mentally ill persons. There was a guy who was put in the Munford unit for treatment, and he was somewhat suicidal at the same time. They put him in a jail, put him in a cell at this unit in Texas, and it was covered from wall to ceiling to floors to windows, even the water fountain was covered with human feces. And even the little drain in the middle of the floor where he was to excrete was, when he finally was able to use it, it's a sludge of a fecal sludge just comes up off the floor. For 6 days, he had to live and sleep in that kind of facility. And the trial court said they didn't do nothing wrong by making them sleep there for 6 days in that poop. And then they appealed it to the Fifth Circuit. They said, oh, no, they didn't do nothing. They only made the Fifth Circuit, they only had him there for 6 days. He only had to sleep in that poop for 6 days. Wow. He had to sleep there, smell it, and everything for 6 days. And when they fed him, he had to eat in there for 6 days. And then the Supreme Court says, because of the man's mental condition, it was so bad until they couldn't turn their heads. It was too egregious for them to turn away and not do something about it. Right. And they said that the officers who were responsible for this should not benefit from qualified immunity, which means when officers do something wrong, when they break the law, when they have misconduct, they hide behind qualified immunity to shield them from these things, just like the guy who runs away and gets shot in the back, and they said the officer did nothing wrong. So the Supreme Court says no, but it is rare, very, very rare, for the courts not to protect the police officers even when they do things wrong. We had a case in Humble, Texas in 2010, Jamal Antron, and they arrested this guy. He was on the ground, handcuffed, and an officer walks over and stands on his mouth and his nose, and he dies.
Wow. Hold that thought real quick, Senfronia. Hold that, Representative Senfronia, hold that thought. We'll take a break, but I want to hear everything about it. We'll take a break real quick, and we'll be right back. We'll be
right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages.
Light up
your new year with a top-rated luxury SUV from Ron Carter Cadillac. Drive the new 2021 XT4 Luxury Collection for $319 a month, the new 2021 XT5 Luxury Collection for $399 a month, or the new 2021 XT6 Luxury Collection for $459 a month. All for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway.
Shop smarter when you shop Ron Carter. RonCarterCadillac.com.
Amazing things for you.
My prenatal promise is to make sure my baby is safe and healthy, because I know it is possible to acquire syphilis, HIV, or other STDs without knowing it. Getting tested is my very first chance to protect my baby. Doctors are required to give expectant mothers 3 separate tests for syphilis. If you're pregnant, ask your doctor if you're being tested properly for syphilis and other STDs. Congenital syphilis can lead to a miscarriage, stillbirth, or an infant death. Don't risk your baby's health. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com.
And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Hey, family, thanks so much for coming back. We're here with State Representative Senfronia Thompson. State Rep, let's talk about I love what you were saying. Let's talk about it. Let's pick up right where we left off.
So this gentleman in Humble was handcuffed on the ground. There were 4 officers on site, and one of them walks over, and he, with his boots on, he stands on his mouth and his nose, and the guy dies. And he goes to court, all 4 of them, because they get sued civilly, and they want qualified immunity. Well, the other 3 of them got qualified immunity, but the one who stood on his face did not get it.
Wow!
But that was very rare.
Right.
Was very rare. And I think there are some cases that shocks the consciousness of the court.
Right.
That they would act without looking at it. But here's what the court normally does: if somebody comes and stands on your nose and face, and they says this officer should have qualified immunity, the court said, "Well, okay then, show me another case where we decided in the plaintiff's face, where in the plaintiff's favor and against the police officer, and it has to be within that jurisdiction. It has to be the same set of facts, and the court have made a decision in it. And if they can't, they say, well, the officer is entitled to qualified immunity." Let me give you another example. We had a prison guard who pepper sprayed an inmate in his cell in his eyes. And he just kept pepper spraying him. And the inmate ended up filing a civil suit because he said he had violated his civil rights. His rights have been violated. The court says the only way that we can not give this prison guard qualified immunity is you have to show me another case where the courts have decided against a prison guard who pepper sprayed an inmate within the same jurisdiction as where this prison is located, and we held the decision against the prison guard. There weren't any cases. So what happened? The prison guard gets the qualified immunity. Another case was a police officer stops a person here in Texas, in South Texas, a few years ago, and the person went to get some identification, but it wasn't a weapon, and the cop pulled his gun and shot 22 times. And he calls his supervisor. He says, "You know what? You've been saying that I didn't have any guts when I stop and arrested people. I just pumped 22 bullets in this person. Am I provocative or not?" He got qualified immunity. He was able to walk. Nothing happened when they filed a lawsuit. This is what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to say that we want police officers to do a good job. We want to push the trash out. The trash of those officers who violates the laws. We are required as citizens to follow the law. And police officers are citizens as well. They are to enforce the law, but that doesn't exempt them from following the law. And if they break the law, then they should be held accountable. We're asking for accountability. How do we get accountability? Till we remove qualified immunity here. And we let everybody face the same music that all of us have to face when we go beyond the pale of law.
Wow.
And that's what we do.
Absolutely.
Now, another aspect of it is excessive force. And we talked a little bit about it by saying, why don't you use escalation? You know, they come on a scene, for example, and there are two guys arguing, and they are violently in an argument. Well, if they come up there and they started cussing and beating up and hitting with blackjacks and all, you know, I mean, you're exacerbating the situation. But if you want to pull these two guys apart and say, hey, fellas, what's going on here? What's happening here? What's the problem here? You're doing a de-escalation situation, and you're not exacerbating the situation. We don't want cops to go up and shoot first and ask questions later.
Right.
We want to be able to find out what the situation is. And if that cop is doing something in excess of using excessive force, then we want that other cop and his partner to step in and say, hey man, hey, back off. You've done enough here. That would have saved George Floyd's life if any of those other three officers who have been standing there recognize the fact that this man's knee was on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
Right.
He would have been alive today. He might have been in somewhat of a vegetative state. We don't know, but he probably would have lived. And then we want to be able to, in the same bill, to be able to say that if a police officer has been disciplined, no matter what municipality he may go to work, we want that disciplinary record to follow him. Just like a criminal record follows people today when they commit a crime and they get a record or something on their record, it stays with them to the grave in most situations. And basic law, basically, that is kind of like the essence of what, you know, this in the bill. We want accountability, and accountability can be had by removing the qualified immunity. Right now, cities, municipalities all over this state and this country, many times borrow money in order to be able to pay off lawsuits and things because of misconduct of officers. Make sure that they disciplinary record follow them. If a county or municipality want to hire them with the record a bad record that they have, then they know that they are buying a liability. They are assuming a lot that they are going to have to be able to pay. They're going to have to pay out a lot of money for the person that they hire. And we think that this is something they ought to know who they're hiring. Truth in hiring is what we're looking for. So all we're asking for in this bill is fairness.
Absolutely.
We're just asking for the same thing out of our officers that they're asking for us.
Absolutely.
Follow the law. Don't break the law. And if you break the law, you know, you suffer the consequences. It's just as simple as that. And we've been trying to get bits and pieces of this bill for a long time. In addition to that, we have what is called Class C misdemeanors. You know, it doesn't make sense to stop a person for not having a seatbelt, and then you're gonna carry them and put them in jail, give them a $500 bond. I mean, that's you're abusing the people of that county and the people of that city. Right. Because that's taxpayers' dollars that sale that pays for the availability of that sale, and it pays for somebody to guard that sale. It pays for that officer to pick that person up. Gasoline, the wear and tear on the vehicle, and all of those things that goes into it. And it keeps us from constantly paying more taxes. All you ask to do is give that person a ticket. If they don't show up, you've got an address, you can go and pick them up.
Let's do
But
this.
you don't need to stack them in jail.
Sounds good. Let's do this. Let's look at you in action real quick.
Chair recognizes Ms. Thompson of Harris to explain the amendment.
Mr. Speaker, members, one of the things that we know when companies open up a business, they do it for probably several purposes, among which they go in business to make money. And we want people to make money. We believe in a free market, but we do not believe in gouging. Now, I'm going to tell you why I have this amendment. This amendment is for transparency. We want to make sure that when the pharmaceutical companies raise their prices 10%, we happen to know, we want to know about it. Right now, this bill doesn't have any transparency, and they can raise it 50 or more percent. Let me give you an example. I bet you have a lot of people in your district that use insulin. You probably have a lot of children who use insulin. Do you know when in the last 4 years, the pharmaceutical company has raised the price of insulin 90%? I was talking about 90%. Now just think about how much that costs. Most of us would call that gouging. I know I would. What about Lipitor? You know Lipitor has been around a long time. Lipitor has been raised 84%. We want to know if they raise their drug prices 10%. We'd like to know that. Wouldn't you want to know it? I know I do. So when all I'm doing is asking is that if they raise their prices 10%, we want to know about it. This bill is going to allow them to raise it 50 or more percent before they tell us about it. I don't want my constituents gouged. You don't want your constituents gouged. And one of the things we want to remain a friendly state where people can come in here and do business, but we don't want them in our state doing business to gouge our constituents.
Mr. Speaker,
Ms. Rose, for what purpose?
would the gentlelady yield for a question?
Does the gentlelady yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
Gentlelady yields.
Representative Thompson.
Hey, ladies, so I wanted to talk a lot about that. I appreciate you just fighting for people, because just listening to that, how many people right this moment, we have over 40 million plus that are unemployed in the United States. And now we look at the fact of insurance. We look at the fact of the people not having it, and now they're being gouged by pharmaceuticals. Wow, that opened my eyes.
Well, we're trying to do something about it, and we're trying to also do something about those who are not insured.
Right.
And this is a sad part about the people who are not insured. They may have conditions that become exacerbated because of lack of treatment.
Yes.
And many of them, because they don't have insurance, have to rely upon the facilities and the clinics and the hospitals that take in and do indigent care.
Right.
Who pays for indigent care? We do.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you keep forcing the public, the people that you're supposed to be interested in trying to lower taxes and make sure that they keep more of their dollars? Why would you keep raising the cost of what they have to pay in terms of taxes in order to pay for these indigent care exacerbated conditions, when you could have treated them earlier, got some treatment and remedies in place, and the condition that may have precipitated itself into may have never happened.
Right. Absolutely.
That's a disservice not only to the public, but it's definitely a disservice to the person who has been denied the right of having health care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You could have had health care, but finally when you do get a chance to go in, they tell you, well, you got stage 4 lung cancer.
Mm-hmm.
What happened if you could have just found out you had lung cancer, and we could have treated it, and you would have had a quality of life.
Right.
But now we got to tell you about a death sentence now.
Mm-hmm. 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 Wow. You've also been up and fighting for sexual harassment, sex trafficking, and other things. Why so?
Unfortunately, women and children are usually the victims here.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, we need to find ways and means in order to take the profit out of those kinds of activities, so that we can get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
It leaves a scar on it leaves a psychological scar on the victims who have been forced into these kinds of situations, and it forces society to be able to pick up the pieces for enormous length of time: psychiatric treatment, job training, housing, re-educating, so many things. And some people don't ever overcome some of the traumas that they have endured as a result of sex trafficking and labor trafficking, which is really one that we have not been able to really get our arms around, where people are brought in, carried to work, and they have no income, period.
Right.
They can't run away because they don't know anybody to run to. There's no money to run away to.
Mm-hmm.
And many times they don't even speak the language.
Mm-hmm.
And not all of these people that I may be speaking about are from foreign countries.
Mm-hmm.
We found out through our research that 83% of the sex trafficking are people who are domestic.
Mm.
And when you move over to the human trafficking aspect of it, and you say, what is happening, in the state of Texas with human trafficking? Human trafficking is so prevalent. It is in every country on the globe. Go to Israel, where Jesus drove the cross, and it is prevalent there in Jerusalem.
Mm.
It is everywhere. No matter what country you go to, human trafficking is a problem. And labor trafficking is a problem. It looks good when you look at the labor trafficking because you're working somebody for 50 cents a day, 50 cents an hour. But at the end of the day, this is a situation when we get those people, we're able to get them out of it, and it's difficult to get them out of those situations. Here's another group of people we got to take care of. You got to provide housing, food, job training, psychiatric help, and so many other kinds of help for them. Who picks up that tab that these other people have been gaining from financially for themselves? At the end of the day, the public has to pick up all of those pieces, and they have to pay for the cost of those pieces that they pick up.
Sounds good. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back with State Representative Senfronia Thompson.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages.
Light up your new year with a top-rated luxury SUV from Ron Carter Cadillac. Drive the new 2021 XT4 Luxury Collection for $319 a month, the new 2021 XT5 Luxury Collection for $399 a month, or the new 2021 XT6 Luxury Collection for $459 a month. All for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway.
Shop smarter when you shop Ron Carter. RonCarterCadillac.com.
Amazing things for you.
My prenatal promise is to make sure my baby is safe and healthy, because I know it is possible to acquire syphilis, HIV, or other STDs without knowing it. Getting tested is my very first chance to protect my baby. Doctors are required to give expectant mothers 3 separate tests for syphilis. If you're pregnant, ask your doctor if you're being tested properly for syphilis and other STDs. Congenital syphilis can lead to a miscarriage, stillbirth, or an infant death. Don't risk your baby's health. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com.
And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Thanks so much for coming back. We are here with State Representative Senfronia Thompson. State Rep, let's talk about some things, some upcoming events you have. Let's talk about it. Let's show some flyers right here. She has one today. I know. It's called Neighborhood Super Site, Northeast Multi-Service Center. This is the water. We're going to have this one on Saturday. This flyer's for Saturday. That's for today.
Yes, we're giving out food and water and things for people who have suffered through this last ordeal of cold weather.
Mm-hmm.
So many people who pipes have bursted, sheetrock is falling, houses got flooded, and more importantly, they lost a lot of food because of lack of refrigeration.
Absolutely.
And we're trying to help to do the best we can to help to restore as many people as we possibly can. Today and tomorrow as well, and this is only the beginning of what we really want to do. We want to be able to help everybody,
right?
But we definitely want to help as many people as we possibly can to get back up on their feet. It's difficult when you have these kind of situations that happens to you.
Absolutely. You also have a senior box program that you have that's going on.
Yeah, those persons who are not able to get out and particularly the senior citizens, to make sure that they get nutritious food. You know, you and I eat bologna, and I like wieners and stuff of that nature. But we want to
Right.
make sure that they get enough protein,
Right.
and enough
That's it.
vegetables and things of this nature that is really critical in their diet.
Absolutely. And you have things for that. Just letting people know that you have been on the trail for a long period of time. You have not come off of this trail. You've been helping so many people through different disasters, storms, and everything else. Many laws that have come down that you have just over a period of time. What's next, lady, for you? What do you think going forward?
Well, I like doing what I'm doing, and that's fine. It's fine with me. Making sure I'm able to help other people to go further if they want to. Those things are important, and hopefully being able to encourage young people to get more politically involved. You don't have to always hold an office, but if you know what the issues are, if you're able to keep up with what's going on, then it is easy to be able to make sure that you have the right persons supporting you. And this session is going to be a difficult session because there are so many bills being filed, not only within the state of Texas, but all over the United States to stop African Americans from voting.
Yes.
Because they don't want to have early voting. They don't want us to vote, period. And I just think that the vote, we all know that the vote is important.
Right.
Lyndon Johnson, when he passed the Voters' Rights Act, says that it's important that the African American people recognize the power that they have in the vote. And if they ever recognize the power that they have in the vote, they will be able to guide their own destiny.
Absolutely.
And we have recognized the power of the vote, and we are trying to guide our own destiny.
Well, one thing about it I love about you is that you've pushed the vote. You understand what it is. You have fought to keep it over a period, all these years. And just the understanding, I think many of us don't understand the fact of the vote. Every vote counts. Let's talk about every vote counting, because many people say, oh, my vote won't count.
Well, all we have to do is start off by saying that when President Trump was trying to get the state of Georgia to find 11,790 votes, he only wanted one vote more than what Biden had received in that state.
Right.
And if every vote didn't count, he would have asked for a lot of votes. But he knew that it only took one vote.
Right.
And if he had the understanding that it takes one vote, that means that every one vote that we have, it's important to go out and cast. We lost, I remember one of the presidential races that we lost, and if we had received one extra vote for every precinct that we had within the United States in a Democratic area, we would have won the presidential seat against Nixon. All we need in the black community across the United States, those black precincts, was one additional vote.
Right.
So one vote does make a difference. What really sometimes is disappointing is to have people to tell you, well, I don't vote because they're gonna do what they do anyway. And sometimes I see women and people going to the food bank or going to get WIC, and they don't want. I'm not bothered. I just got to go get some milk for my baby, and I stop them and tell them, listen, do you know how you're getting that milk for your baby? Because me and other people like me voted for that program to be in existence so you can have a place to go and get nutrition for your child. Had it not been for people voting for that, you wouldn't be able to have nutrition for your child. Sometimes it resonates, most time it doesn't. But I'm just going to keep saying it, because people are going to have to understand it's about collectively working together. And being able to get things, it's not always just about you.
Right.
You know, let me tell you what, when I was sitting down on the corner of Alameda and Southmore at Madden's Drugstore, which is now Walgreens,
right,
in the sit-down movement, I didn't dream that I would ever see integration during my lifetime. I wasn't doing it so that I could see integration. I was doing it so that those persons who came behind me was going to be able to live within an integrated society. That my young children, as young as they were, would have been able to live in an integrated society. I never dreamed that I would live long enough to see integration. But we were able to get it. With the grace of God, we got it. And it was miraculous. And that showed me, because we all were on the same page nationally, and we were pushing toward the same goals, what we were able to achieve by collectively working together. And it happens over and over again when we do it that way.
Absolutely. What would you like to leave with the viewers?
Well, I like to leave this one thing. I get up each day. I don't know what my day is going to be like. And I just ask for this one thing. God, let me walk in your divine grace and do your will. And I think that if more people become conscious of the fact that we can't do nothing outside of the will of God, we can't do nothing without his help, without his guidance. And we are not omnipotent, and we're not an island to ourselves, but we have to live among people and find ways and means to get along and do those things. And we do that by divine guidance. Because if we were all of that in a bag of chips, we would be further along the way with our thoughts and our ideas. So I want them to stay positive. Remember, there's power in voting. You must vote. Absolutely. I want to remember about the George Floyd Act.
Yes.
George Floyd may not be related to you, but he is our brother. And when the Bible says, love your neighbor as yourself, treat your neighbor as you would treat yourself, then if you do that, you will go out and fight for the George Floyd Act to pass.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, lady, for everything that you have done along the way. Thank you for consistently being boots on the ground on everything that you do. You're having an event on today, right now, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Northeast Multi-Service Center right this moment at 2 o'clock. Thank you for everything. You're having something, an event on tomorrow, and we'll post that. And a continued event that you have, which is the Senior Box program, and many more that we'll be posting with you. Thank you for everything that you do.
And thank you for inviting me to your show, and I'm looking forward to coming back.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon. I appreciate you, and God bless. On Monday, we will have Jamie Wright, advocate and activist, 12:30 to 1:30 Central Standard Time. See you then. Bye.